Okay guys, as you know, we've had two recent events that have resulted in a lot of deaths, a lot of sadness around the country, but also a lot of political bullshit. And that is the events of Puerto Rico and Hurricane Maria and the Las Vegas shooting, which I had my mom and my stepdad in Vegas at the time of the shooting, and they're still there right now. They're not hurt or anything. They weren't at the country music festival, but they were there. So I'm going to go step by step through both of these issues, and I just trying to figure out why the left is reacting the way they're reacting. Of course, with Las Vegas, it's predictable, just really egregious this time around, because I thought how they reacted to Sandy Hook was bad, or the Pulse was bad. They reacted really, really bad this time around. And of course, Maria is the. We will also answer the question: is the entire thing about this being Trump's Katrina all bullshit? We'll go through that here. Alright, so right now I'm going to start with the entire thing at Vegas. The entire thing at Vegas was, the guy's name is Stephen Paddock. He was a 64-year-old, apparently retired or something like that. Was an accountant, and no one really knows exactly what happened with him, at least to my knowledge. There's some people who are saying he's a leftist, some people who are complete idiots saying he was an Islam convert with the wrong age and a different picture of him. Now, I'm not calling anything until the actual truth comes out that he was one of these things. But so far to our knowledge, he isn't anything. He's just an anomaly. He's just snapped. Like, he had no criminal record, no arrest record of any kind. He was just some random dude who snapped and said, "I'm gonna just shoot some people from a uptown skyrise." And not a skyrise, from my hotel room. And it was just really weird, because we haven't had a shooting of that type happen in a while. It's just an anomaly. It's not how the thing really works, usually, and as of now, we might not ever know why he decided to just go out and shoot people. Maybe because he was depressed, maybe because he's an old man and felt he had nothing to do with his life or something. It could be a different number of things. And it could also just be he was an evil dude and he kept it concealed from everybody. Which is something that we should really be focusing on, is what influenced him to do this. What evil influenced him to senselessly kill 50-something people and injure over 400 others. There was like 22,000 at that event. And Jason Aldean was there, a couple other country music stars were there. It's just really, really sad that this type of thing happened. Just really sad. Honestly, I mean, my prayers and my thoughts go out to the families of everyone who was affected by this. I will never know. I hope I never know that type of pain ever. And I hope that no one ever has to go through this type of stuff. But then again, we live in a human world. It's going to happen one way or another, whether we like it or not. Alright. So now we're going to go on to leftist reactions. Why people are reacting the way they are in some of the stupidest, god-awful ways possible. Because I've looked on social media, people are reacting to it in some of the most retarded ways I've ever seen a reaction to for anything. Alright, there are people calling him a terrorist, but as of right now, there's no evidence that he was a terrorist. But a lot of people are jumping on this, especially these Tumblrites or these dreamer people or something like that. They're reacting in some of the stupidest ways possible. And I'll give you an example. there were people calling this guy a terrorist, even though there's no known political affiliation or religious influence that could have caused him to do this. But they keep calling him a terrorist. Even though that's not really what he is. He's just a mass shooter. Just like the guy who shot up the kids at Sandy Hook. He was just a mass shooter. He wasn't a terrorist. He was mentally ill. Which is very well what this guy could be. Stephen Paddock, mentally ill. But they keep calling him a terrorist otherwise without actually knowing the definition of terrorist. Now, I'm going to read you a couple of things from this really stupid guy on Instagram. I'm not going to give out it. Actually, no, I'm not going to give out his name. I don't know his name personally because honestly, this dude sounds like an asshole. At all. He just sounds like a complete asshole. Some type of liberal leftist social media thing. But okay. Here's a comment that he had. He gave me the definition of domestic terrorism. And he said, domestic terrorism, noun, is the committing of terrorist acts in the perpetrator's own country against their fellow citizens. But that doesn't give out the actual definition of terrorism. And the actual definition of terrorism is violence for political gain. It was a term popularized in the 1980s when political violence was really, really getting an upswing. Alright, but I told him. I literally told him, I said, hey, this isn't the actual definition of terrorism. Alright? Because in order to have domestic terrorism, it has to be a terrorist incident. And this isn't terrorism. But they keep calling him a terrorist otherwise. And then you have all these other people saying that, oh, just because he's white, you're not going to call him a terrorist. You know why we kept calling all those guys who carried out those Islamist attacks in Europe terrorists? Because they were actual terrorists. They had religious and political ideologies that influenced that attack. Alright, there's a completely different thing between political and religious violence and just senseless violence. Well, no, you can have both of those, but there's a difference between political and religious violence, and there's a difference between political and religious violence and a random killing brought up by a guy who was probably mentally ill. This honestly this could be the entire thing. I'm not sure. Like I said, the facts aren't in yet. You have to wait maybe a couple more days for all the facts to come in. But unless he did act out of political or religious influence, then there's no way in hell this guy's a terrorist. It gets on my nerves that people are gonna jump on this for political gain. Like, for example, Hillary Clinton, who, along with Donald Trump, should not be given control of a Twitter. She came out, one of the first things she said about this incident on Twitter was, we should all come together as Americans and put politics and try to find a way to basically to keep this from happening again, which is something that everyone would agree with. But then in the next moment, she said, imagine if a silencer was used and that the NRA wants to deregulate. She just, instead of making it not political, she made it completely political 2 seconds flat. In just one tweet, she made it all political. Alright? And if you've actually heard a silencer go off, I've seen a lot of videos that, contrary to the evidence, it would still be loud, alright? It would still be like a jackhammer hitting the ground at full force. Alright? So, and the guy didn't even use a silencer, so it's completely irrelevant to the total conversation of what happened at Vegas. It doesn't make any sense. It tells you that she's just trying to do whatever she can to remain relevant with the gun control crowd. And I know Dianne Feinstein's probably jumping all over this with her soaked wad of bugle shirts or whatever she wears. It's just insane that people could say shit like this. And then Jimmy Kimmel, who has been very well documented as a guy who will use anything to politicize an argument. Will use personal experiences to politicize an argument, like his son with Like, he used his son as a political prop for healthcare, which is, I think, as a general rule, you shouldn't ever bring your kids into politics unless they are, like, wanting to get into politics, but this isn't that situation. His son's, I think he's a little kid, and but when he was born, he was a hole in his heart, and, you know, that whole thing. And that he made that his prop for healthcare for all and such, which would never work in real life. And then he comes out and apparently Vegas is his hometown. I'm gonna give him the benefit of the doubt here, which is a lot more generous than I could have been. But basically, he comes out and says that Republicans should be praying to God for forgiveness for letting this happen, even though there's no evidence that Republicans ever did anything that would have actually led to this. No policies could have stopped this. Nothing could have really prevented it. Right? The guy passed a government background check. A government fucking background check. Okay? Ones that Democrats are in favor for. The ones that people generally are okay with. And I heard on Joe Matthews' show the other night saying that the NRA is, no, it's a political Ponzi scheme. They don't care about Americans. And basically Jimmy Kimmel kind of echoes that. And I suggest you go watch the entire thing because it's just really, really bad. Alright. And I just don't understand it. I just don't understand how people can be so uncaring. So uncaring, so stupid and idiotic. It just makes me want to, do a Sean Connery and go away forever. But then Harrison Ford would have to save me for something, and we'd have to do a thing. But seriously, it's just really sad that people think this way. It's really sad. And honestly, this is why the country's divided. You're gonna attack one guy's beliefs just because something stupid like this happened. Alright, you're gonna attack people's constitutional right that most people in America think we should have because a guy became disgruntled. If anything, we should be talking about stuff for the mentally ill, which is something that the Republicans have tried to pass in recent history, aka before Donald Trump's inauguration, but the Democrats rejected that bill. And of course, you're going to have Democrats like Elizabeth Warren and Dianne Feinstein, basically every Democrat under the sun, who wants basically a full-on gun ban. That would be the only way to curb violence in America, because Australia did the same thing and they barely had any shootings since then. But guess what? When you ban the guns, people find something else to kill with, and they do it in even more violent ways. Alright, there was a guy in China. Alright, communist China. Well, somewhat communist China now, but still, communist China. Like 2011. Killed over 20 school kids with a freaking pair of scissors or something. Alright? There are a lot of different ways you can kill someone. Alright? Britain freaking banned long kitchen knives because of a knife attack. And they've had guns banned for a long time. Alright, and they also have one of the most violent murder rates in the world. And most murders in the US by guns are committed by handguns. And guess what? It's not in rural America. Where most gun shootings happen, they happen in big cities. They don't happen in densely populated areas. They happen in cities. They happen in places like Chicago. They happen in places like Baltimore, where gangs and criminals basically do whatever the fuck they want to, almost. And no one ever tries to come up with a gun control posse whenever something goes wrong there. Alright, over Like, more people have been killed in Chicago since 9/11 than there have been in the entire Iraq and Afghani wars combined. Okay, it's stupid. Alright, it shows you that the only reason that Democrats are ever going to jump on this type of bandwagon is because they have politics. They basically have an entire political influence and career drawing upon it. And I really don't see why they don't understand that this is a losing issue for them. It's been a losing issue for them ever since they instated the 1994 Gun Control Act, which basically tried to ban rifles. Alright, that's a losing issue for Democrats, and they just don't understand that. And I'm tired of all these also race baiters. You're using this to say, oh, white people, it's white person's fault, and that white people commit more mass murders. Okay? Most shootings happen because of gang violence in big cities, and guess what? Most of the time, yes, the shooter is either black or Hispanic. Alright, I'm sorry. That's how it is. I'm not being racist. I'm using facts. Alright, if you want to look for facts, look at the fucking FBI crime statistics. Alright. Alright, now we'll move on to Puerto Rico. Which, Puerto Rico is just, it's a really bad situation all around almost. Basically, on top of Hurricane Harvey and Hurricane Irma, Puerto Rico got hit by Hurricane Maria, and you know, everybody's like, holy shit, we need to do something. Of course everybody's going to say that, because we need to do something about it. Alright, it's a small island in the middle of the Gulf. Well, not exactly in the Gulf of Mexico, but in the middle of the freaking Atlantic Ocean. Not in the middle of the ocean. It's in the ocean. And it takes forever for aid to get there because it's a freaking island. So it's just a really difficult situation. But this time around it gets a lot worse, because one of the political things that have come out of this is how everybody's just bashing Trump over this with no real evidence that he's doing anything wrong. Alright, you had the governor of Puerto Rico saying that Trump has helped us out and he's done a fantastic job. There's great communication, even though he is at a golf course. But yeah, the governor of Puerto Rico saying federal government's doing his thing. Alright, there is criticism to have with Trump on this. I think that it's kind of stupid that he is at a golf course and he's dedicating an entire trophy to the victims there. I think that's kind of stupid, but overall, it seems that the federal government's doing its job. But then you have people on the left who are using this just to bash Trump for saying that we're gonna take, for example, the San Jose mayor, who is probably one of the worst definitions of a human being ever, or a politician. Like, she's just bad at it. And I'll give you an example as to why she's so stupid. During the entire fallout for this, she went on national TV a couple of times to bash Trump and saying that Trump's not doing anything to help us and that we're all dying. The bitch came out of nowhere one time, had an interview with resident CNN gay guy, what's his name, Anderson Cooper, and basically, she has time to make a shirt saying that we are dying, please help us. She has time to do that, but she doesn't have time to actually help her citizens. Alright, and the entire thing with... Alright, and there's a lot of things going on in Puerto Rico that is the fault of the Puerto Rican government. Because you've had an entire union strike, which is why I say you shouldn't have unions anymore, because they're becoming so politicized. But basically the unions are saying we're not going to deliver aid to people. Alright, and there were pictures coming out. You had warehouses of shit. You had warehouses of water, food, supplies, all these utilities that people need to survive in this type of environment. But yet, they're not getting it. because of the freaking unions. And it's really egregious that people aren't focusing on the Puerto Rican government for that type of reasoning. Alright? Alright, I don't care who you are, you should be bashing the Puerto Rican government for letting that happen. I mean, if I was a head official at the Puerto Rican government, I'd be pissed. Alright? Alright, like I said, Trump has his flaws in this situation. He has his flaws with every situation, but, I mean, for fucking real? You're gonna bash Trump when this is clearly the fault of the Puerto Rican government? Like they're all gonna use the entire Katrina falsity. Alright, everybody's gonna keep using hurricanes to mess with political officials when they really have no control over it, and they never should. Fuck. Alright, and this is the entire problem I've had with everything about Katrina. It's like, because Katrina was just a completely politicized situation all around. It was the fault of the fault of George Bush for the federal government, because the federal government said they didn't want to get involved and make anything worse, which is a good thing. But when you got towards the end of it, people from the freaking no. But you had people from the Louisiana government criticizing Bush for not doing anything when he clearly could not. Alright? It is the fault of the local officials. When things go wrong, it is usually the fault of the local officials, not the federal government. Alright? You know what happened in Katrina? They had people fucking getting arrested and getting their shit taken away from them by the New Orleans police. That was one of the really big things about it. And also, the levee system was not properly implemented. Alright? It's one of those things that they put in big cities to help try to curb floods whenever there's really bad rain. That failed completely and miserably because they weren't being maintained. That's the entire reason Katrina was as bad as it was because people were not prepared for it, and they weren't preparing for it like they should have and keeping their shit running. And now we're going on to Puerto Rico. This is probably just as bad situation for the Puerto Ricans living there. I'm sorry if you're living there in Puerto Rico and you're going through this shit. I hope everything's going well for you, but I find it really egregious that they're just going to use this as political capital just to bash Trump, when there are people not only dying and living in misery, but are also with no power and possibly no food or water, have nothing left of their homes, and yet no one's doing anything but bashing Trump. And I'll also give you one of the most stupidest things said about Puerto Rico right now. There was this guy from SNL, I don't remember his name because he sounds like an asshole. I might see him in the news again, but anyway, this SNL host called Trump a cracker on national television because apparently he wasn't giving enough help to Puerto Rico, even though there is evidence to the contrary. And it's really, and then, so basically what he says was, he told Trump, tell Melania to get some type of random shoes, get some Atlanta Falcons t-shirts and go down there, and said that he helped out white people in 2 different situations beforehand, in which I would presume, and most likely was, referencing the events of Florida and Texas, the state where I live. And I find that really stupid because the places that got hit, Florida and Houston, well, Florida and Texas, okay? Houston, Texas is one of the most ethnically diverse places in the country. Florida is probably the most ethnically diverse state because they have so many Cubans. They have Cubans there, they have Mexicans there. They have a lot of people in Cuba that, Cuba, obviously, but they had a lot of people in Florida. It is probably one of the most ethnically diverse places ever. There's probably a lot of British people there because I went to Florida once. I went to Orlando to go to Disneyland. Or Disney World, whatever. I saw more than a few British people. I saw more than a few Arab people. Alright? So to suggest that, oh, Trump only gave hurricane relief to the white people is just not true, okay? Like I said, Houston is one of the most ethnically diverse cities in the country. Alright, Beaumont, Texas is a really black majority city as far as schools and such. Alright, I've been to Beaumont. I go to Beaumont pretty frequently. Alright, Jasper, Texas. It's a pretty black majority city. Alright, and I live right basically 15 minutes from it. And that city got flooded. While it's had a better recovery, and it has a little bit of a better recovery just because the rain happened to stop just as soon as it got there. Alright, and people are just... And I hate how people are using this as political tools just to bash Trump for being a supposed racist. It doesn't make any sense to me. How you can use tragedy like tragedies like Vegas, tragedies like Puerto Rico, and basically just go out and say, oh hey, let's bash Trump, or hey, let's bash Republicans. It'll give us more support. Alright, we're only just gonna do this for the votes. We're not actually gonna try to help people. We're not actually gonna try to find ways to prevent these types of things from happening. We're not going to try to improve the levee system in Louisiana. We're not going to try to improve traveling. We're not going to try to improve how supplies are distributed. We're not going to do any of this stuff. And it's really, I just think that everyone on the left is basically wrong about this. Alright, you can state the facts of both of these situations, but if you're just going to use it as a political prop to bash away your point, you're doing a great disservice to anyone who would actually listen to you. You're doing a great disservice to everyone in the country, everyone who is affected by this, whether it be Louisiana, whether it be whether it be Puerto Rico, whether it be Las Vegas, whether it be any of these places where people have been hurt by storms or by just random gunmen who seemingly have no real reason to do all of this stuff. Alright, it's just, I honestly don't know why. I honestly think that human evil is just... Honestly, this is one of the big things that we should be talking about, but we're not, like I said earlier. We should be talking about the natures of human evil and why people would go out and do evil things like kill people. Or why would someone do something like that? Alright, this is the conversation we need to be having as Americans, but we are not. Alright, we're just expending political capital and not letting a tragedy go to waste, because there is a old saying that never let a good tragedy go to waste. And that is exactly what Democrats are doing with Puerto Rico, and that's exactly what Democrats are doing with Las Vegas, and it's disgusting, and everyone should call them out for it, because this is the stupidest bullshit ever. Alright, so fuck you, San Jose mayor, for being a little bitch. Fuck you, Stephen Paddock, for killing more than 50 people here. Not here, killing more than 50 people in Vegas. Unless you were mentally ill, in that case, there's really nothing we could have done for you. But still, we should be coming together in times like this. Instead, we're just fighting with each other and making it even worse. This is why our country's divided and no one wants to take a lesson from it. Alright, so anyway, thank you guys for watching. I hope you enjoyed this. I was meaning to make it sooner, but we got it. I got it done, but it's just, this is a really trying time for everybody right now. For people going through those tragedies, and for everyone wanting to help and trying to help. And here's a good tip: if you want to help the people in Puerto Rico, or you want to help the victims of Las Vegas, give blood, donate to your local charity. I'm sure, and I know they will really appreciate it. Like, just do what you can, basically, that you can help them out, so that way you don't feel like you're being an asshole. Just do what you can, and I'm sure that, and they will be eternally grateful for it. And I would be, if I was in that situation. So anyway, you guys have a good day. I'll see you later. Bye.